Monday morning. Here we go.
Looks like you've got a case of the Mondays. Look, you got a case of the Mondays. Hump day.
We're back again.
Back again. Hey guys, welcome to Testing Normal. This is Curtis.
This is Jordan.
This is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything we want to.
Boop.
Episode
52.
Correct. 52.
Correct. I was being tested. It's right here in front of me.
Yeah, 52, guys.
I've gotten it wrong with it right in front of me, though, before, too.
And so, episode 52.
Yeah.
And how many weeks are in a year?
52.
So, we kind of have a year's
I
worth.
wanted to say 60. That seems like a good
We now
round
have
number.
a year's worth of podcasts.
Yeah.
Basically, if you
For
wanted to
weeks.
listen to one
Yeah.
every week. Yeah. Even though we've been doing it for like a year and a month, basically.
Yeah, because we've skipped a few here
Yeah.
and there because we have lives.
Oh, guys. So, it's been a crazy world, crazy week, crazy month.
It seems like it's gotten crazier. Do you think the world's gotten crazier or just people?
Well, I mean, I think people, right?
It's kind of the same.
This kind of, I guess, the world is, if you're talking about inanimate objects, the same, but people are, of course, in a state of panic.
Well, I guess like dividing that up, do you think that it actually is as crazy as people are making it out to be, or that their craziness is, not in line with the amount of things that are going on?
I think social media amplifies it's an echo chamber. So
it is interesting how that happens, right?
Yeah.
Like how social media, the news, like social media has kind of become like, not, I don't say fake news, but it's just become like the news essentially for most people, and it's way easier to be faked. And so people think, oh no. I don't know how many times I've been told by somebody, I won't mention who those somebodies are, that like, oh my gosh, be careful of the weather. And I'm standing outside looking at the sun, and they're like, it's snowy. Because they haven't been outside.
Yeah. Dude, you had texted me earlier that you wanted me to remind you to tell me a little story about something. I think it happened at work maybe, or
that you were proud of me for?
Yeah. That I would
no, it happened at work. It didn't happen at work, but you will be proud of me.
Okay, tell me.
I got a flu shot.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Attaboy. Good for you, man. When did you get that?
That's a good question. I think last Thursday.
Okay.
I was at the VA.
Oh, nice. Right on, dude.
They were like, do you want a flu shot? I was like, yes.
Yay. Now, will that stop you from getting the flu?
Yes.
No.
Oh, no. Wrong answer.
It will not.
It will prevent me from getting all sicknesses.
It
right?
will. It technically can give you what's called the Midas touch, which anything you touch that you desire turns to gold.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So
I was hoping for the loom one where I could just make it. Or is that like a different?
No, it's a wheel, I think, something like that.
A loom.
Sure. A loom.
Yeah.
But no, no, it won't prevent you from getting the flu, but it just decreases the severity and the duration of the flu if you do acquire it. So that's good.
I will say, I did sleep really well that night, and I don't know if it was that or just general exhaustion, but I had a lot of sleep last week, so I don't know.
You know what is kind of unfortunate about this whole outbreak that's taking place is we are still in like really active flu season.
Yeah.
So we're still getting a lot of influenza type A and type B, which exhibit pretty close to the same symptoms.
Right.
But
just
it's
quicker.
Like really high onset fevers, and cold symptoms as well.
Right.
So it's really confusing because people are like, man, do I have coronavirus? But they have the flu, and it's really hard on them.
So what are the main differences? Like if someone was trying to figure out.
Usually, that we've seen thus far, the coronavirus is typically a longer onset and slower onset of symptoms.
But, okay, but how would somebody, if they were like, say they were in fear of, I have the coronavirus, would there be any like distinctions that they could make possibly between the two?
Not really. Not really. It's tough. So like if you like are feeling really good one day and then the next day you come down with a high fever and
it's most
sore
likely
throat,
not
cough,
coronavirus.
congestion, drainage, then it's usually not coronavirus.
Right. So it is the speed of the onset.
Mm-hmm. Usually it's
could
slow
be a telling
onset,
sign.
and then like a week later you get a fever.
Right.
Right.
Or and that's just not best case, but you know what I mean. Like that could be the case for somebody. It
now
may
in
not be for some people.
Like we've seen in some elderly folk that not be the case. Like they'll have been doing great, and then the next day, boom, they're like in critical care.
Yeah.
But in children, especially in kids, they actually just had a new case yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Or not yesterday, maybe today? I can't recall. In Portland, a kid tested positive for coronavirus at a school.
Oh.
That's
tough.
They're shutting
Kids
down
are
that
dirty.
in Hillsborough, I think.
Okay.
So they're shutting down the school and
Yeah.
they're deep cleaning, quote, quote, because that's going to stop it. Not really.
Right.
And
I mean, it could. It could prevent a case.
It could potentially, but it's like, well, basically the only way that would work is when people are talking about cleaning these facilities and then reopening them, you have to clean it every day like that for it to prevent. Because someone else then again could spread something.
So I watched a movie last night that you said you cannot watch.
I can't watch those shows.
But I have a couple questions about it.
Yeah.
They talked about...
Well, what show did you watch?
Sorry. I should say. I watched Contagion.
Which is a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I watched it with my kids, which is a big mistake. We moved our kids around rooms yesterday, and my second oldest son has some anxieties anyway, but he moved downstairs, and then so we watched that movie with him, and it was probably I mean, I wouldn't say it was a mistake. It made our nights more interesting. That is really loud in the mics.
Oh, sorry.
And he didn't end up sleeping in the new room.
Oh no.
He within 5 minutes. He was at our door after he went to bed.
He was too freaked out.
Yeah, he's like, "Can I sleep on the floor?" And he's like, and then I asked him this morning, he's like, "How you doing?" He goes, "I was doing great until I was laying there in bed realizing germs are everywhere and they're invisible and we can't help but touching them."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's what made you come to my room? Like,
I'm scared.
Yeah. So what the question I had about it was, they talked about these numbers, which I can't remember what they're called, like the ROT number or the right number or RIT number. It's the metric for how many people, when you get sick, how many people you on average will infect.
Yep.
What's that number called? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's the ROD number. Is it the ROD?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it's the ROD number or RO. But they say like ROD. They pronounce it like ROD number.
Yeah. So on this show or on this movie on Contagion, the raw was 4,
which is high.
Yeah. Do we know what it is for corona?
Good question. So they're in the process right now of assessing that because they're not totally sure. So I think, and I would have to look this up. I think like influenza was like 1.5 maybe or something like that.
On this movie, they had H1N1 at 1, I think.
Okay. So
might have been 2.
It was. I think it's like 1.5 maybe.
But the regular influenza, just the flu, was a 1.
Okay.
On this movie,
that sounds right.
And it's probably accurate. I don't know why they would bolster that number.
So I think that they're suspecting it's closer to like 3.
Which is high.
Which is really high.
Yeah.
There was a guy in New York. This is kind of a good example of it. He was an attorney in New York. He started coming down with flu-like symptoms.
Right.
So he asked a taxi driver to drive him to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
So a taxi driver sent him to the took him to the hospital. Then they tested him. He was positive. Then they tested his family members. Family members were positive, so the children and wife. They tested the taxi driver, who was only with him for a very short period of time. Taxi driver came back positive.
What?
Yeah.
That quick?
That quick. And then or that little minute of time of exposure with the guy. And then they tested the taxi guy's family members, and those are still pending, so they're not sure. But if the taxi members' family members are positive,
5.
then it's
or 6.
It's a rod of, I think it would be, it's not a 1-for-1. It's like, but basically it would be, it's how many chains. So it would be 1, 2, 3. That would be a 3.
Yeah.
That'd be a 3 chain.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And so we've talked about, obviously for the last 3 weeks, but this is what's in the news. Like it's the questions that come up. The things that I'm noticing here, and we kind of had a short text discussion about this last night. You were like, I think it will get bad here. I don't think you meant by that we're going to have 1 billion people sick here, but the panic will strike here, similar to what it's done in some other countries, but it already kind of has, even in our small town. Like our Costco doesn't have toilet paper, which is interesting. I don't. People think they're going to be shitting themselves more or something.
It's not causing diarrhea issues.
And like we were talking about this morning, like rubbing alcohol is gone,
which is weird.
Yeah, like just these general things. Like
no, I think when I say bad, like I'm in the terms of, I think it's going to become more of a prominent infection. Is what I'm thinking.
And more things will shut down.
I think that the best way to control and decrease the spread of the infection will be to shut certain things down.
Yeah.
And I think it would be wise if they did it prophylactically. However, thus far,
Like
the
with
U.S.
condoms?
government has not done a great job of using prophylactics. So if they could put a rubber on it, it would help.
Yeah.
No, but
So what you're saying is we're all screwed.
well, I think that
Using your analogy.
I don't think we're screwed. Like I don't
No.
think. I think there's going to be unnecessary infections and
Yeah.
unnecessary spread because they're not willing to do hard closures. Like I think they should shut schools down for the next month because kids are going to be the most active spreader. I think that they should, kind of like Northern Italy is doing. They're stopping certain commutes, like they're stopping down certain train stations.
Right.
I think unless it's and the other big thing,
And they're shutting down soccer.
yeah,
like
which is
sporting
big in
events.
Europe. But I think another big thing is employers. Although hopefully there could be some type of like government stimulant package to help with this, a relief package. But I think employers, if you should not discourage people from not coming to work. I think that if you're showing up in a public place and you're sick, you're higher likelihood of spreading something. And in our environment, in our culture, it seems like it's not very encouraged not to show up to work if you're sick, especially in like more hourly wage jobs. So,
Right.
and even in healthcare world, it's like a conflict because they're like, oh, we need healthcare providers to be coming in to work because there's so many people that are sick. But also it's like, okay, well, you're also potentially spreading stuff if you're
Right.
sick too. So it's
Well,
a
I think
double-edged
that
sword.
and maybe it's better in other countries, but I think that it's hard. And I'm just talking about I think that where I work does a pretty good job of telling people, hey, stay home. Outside of even this coronavirus thing, like stay home if you're sick. Don't do that. Don't spread it. And there's no guilt in someone doing that. I mean, I got sick for like 9 days one time, and I didn't get any flack.
That's amazing.
At
You
all.
didn't go to work for 9 days?
No,
That's incredible.
So it was 9 days straight. So it was really like a week and a half of work. And obviously, I wasn't in a good place to go to work. So it wasn't like I was having fun at home or playing hooky or whatever. I definitely was just in bed the entire time, like fevered out for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
That was my I caught the flu story. But Haley as well, and we were just like helpless. It was so bad.
Yeah, and you had kids probably at that point, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's miserable. It's
It's like the plague. Like I think we watched like 6 seasons of The Walking Dead. Just a perfect show to watch when you have the
that's
flu.
great.
You feel like you are the zombies in the story. So yeah, it's good times.
Oh,
but,
that's good.
So what I think is great, and you have a link that you want to talk about because it isn't all grim. Like
Yeah.
here's the reality of the situation in life. There are diseases and dangers all around us a lot of the time.
Yep.
And our bodies do a phenomenal job for the most part of surviving. Like,
Yeah.
If there's one thing that's wowed me, it's how easily the human body can be destroyed, but also in other situations how resilient it is.
Yeah.
You see like these people fall from the sky from 30,000 feet and they hit the ground, they're fine, and then other people go splat.
Touched
right?
by an angel, baby.
You know what I mean? Like, and some people get sick and they're
Yeah.
fine. Like
So a subject I wanted to broach is happiness. So kind of like a flip on this whole like mood of gloomy, contagion.
Contagion.
Let's mix it up. Let's talk about some happiness.
Haley just joined us, so she can
Oh, good.
chime in about Contagion.
Oh yeah,
how she
yeah,
feels
Haley.
about
Let me
it.
know how you feel about that movie. But happiness.
I will
So-
say about that movie,
Yeah.
it does bring it around and show you. It's not a spoiler. I'm not going to say how it happens, but it does bring it around and show you like patient zero in the end. So it's a movie of
That's
like
cool.
educating you the whole process. It's sad because there's people that die and it's a
Yeah.
crazy outbreak and everything, but it is about the process.
I
which
might
is-
be able to watch the movie at some point, but it's too relevant to me right now, so it stresses me out. And then also, like, I can't watch House. I hate watching House.
I know. I
hate
actually
watching
told
that,
Haley that
and
last
I hate
night,
watching,
and she's
like-
like, "That's weird. I have nurse friends that can."
Oh my god!
But
no, it's
I
so
could see
annoying.
but also I think that show clashes with her personality.
Maybe, I don't know. Like,
Because you want to be that guy. You don't want the other guy
that's
to be that
interesting.
guy.
Maybe that's interesting.
I think that's what it is.
That's that's interesting perspective. I don't know if I would have consciously thought of that.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously.
Yeah.
But the part that I actively recognize that annoys me
Yeah.
is the fact that like it's just so unrealistic. And
Yeah.
I was like, that is not how
Well,
that works.
it's-
and it's not like a funny thing. So like Scrubs, I can enjoy Scrubs,
Right.
Because it's funny and like obviously there's things like that's not realistic. That's not what you would
Right.
do. That's not what I would do.
I think the
but
hard
I
part
enjoy it
about
'cause
House
it's
is
like it's funny.
how often the things happen. That's what's unrealistic, is how often he's doing it.
Yeah, how often he himself is solving this crazy complex
Right.
puzzle.
Which that's just a show. So
Yeah.
I mean, if in reality he'd have like one of those a year, maybe.
Oh, maybe one of those a lifetime.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that bugs me. But as much as
I think what it is you don't like people with canes.
oh, you cracked it.
I
Don't
cracked
tell
it.
anybody. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell.
I'm so
anybody.
cane racist, bro. Okay, so I want to talk about
Casist.
happiness. Some of the interesting things about happiness. So there's been a lot of interesting studies about
Happiness can help you from getting sick.
Yeah, happiness can help. Helps with the immune system a little bit. But so what are some things that make you happy? Interestingly, aging.
I almost just started answering.
Aging helps with happiness.
Aging?
They've found in several. All these are linked to studies, and I'll have these things that you guys can look up. But out of the University of Alberta, they found that the level of happiness over a 25-year period was like a steady increase if a correlation with age. So if
Wow. So actually getting older makes you happy?
and you would think, okay, so maybe that's not necessarily age that's making them happy, but the life experiences that are making them a little bit happier.
Or just things making more sense.
Yeah, and another, I'm gonna have a lot of these things. I'll just start rattling them off. So there is a certain degree of money that helps with encouraging happiness.
Mm-hmm.
After a certain point, though, it doesn't really affect happiness.
Right.
But
Well, it's what they say is that money can't buy happiness, but neither can being poor.
right. And so the interesting thing is their money does allow for a certain degree of freedom and independence. And they believe that it's the independence and the freedom that the money at that certain
but
point.
that's still it's not the money buying it, but it's
but if you
providing a
don't
path.
have that money,
Oh yeah.
then you don't have that independence and that freedom, right?
Yeah.
So like our children
Right.
are kind of a good example of that.
I'm just saying, like, it is true that it directly can't buy happiness, but if you manage it well and do things like that, because some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people, the money actually brings them like hardship
Well, and speaking about hardship a little bit, or like
because they're so worried about it. There's fear involved.
Some cultures, like Western cultures, have a higher value on happiness, whereas other cultures actually kind of have like a negative view towards expressing or showing happiness.
Or showing it, not feeling it.
and kind of like encouraging it
Because it's like bragging.
kind of, yeah, like it's a happiness aversion, I guess you would say. And some of the reasons, so like some like German cultures and
Do they count?
well, kind of.
They do have sausage.
Japan, Middle East cultures.
I can't trust any culture that does lukewarm beer.
Yeah.
I have a
I
hard
guess it
time
depends
with
on
that.
how it tastes.
No.
There could be some that taste good.
No. You were talking about the beef tartare. Like if it had been cold, it would have been good. Or if it had been a little bit warm, it would have been good.
Yeah.
But in the middle,
No good.
Yeah.
But some of these cultures, the reasons they don't like happiness to be like shown is some of them being happy makes it more likely that bad things will happen to you. Like some cultures believe that if you are happy,
So it's like a reverse karma thing.
yeah, being
That's
happy
weird.
makes you a worse person. Expressing happiness is bad for you and other people. And so they have an aversion to showing or expressing happiness.
Okay. So does it say like what cultures that is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is
In
it
Japanese cultures,
okay?
Germany, and Middle East cultures.
Okay. So all the cultures, like Japan has like what, a huge like suicide death rate.
Well, that's interesting. So another interesting study, and all these studies, guys, like I said, you'll be able to look them in on our links. They have found that some of the happiest countries,
Yeah.
like on the rankings, have also some of the highest suicide rates.
Well, it might be because of the whole Instagram effect, where you think everyone else is doing better.
Well, they're scoring the happiness not based on Instagram, though.
No. But I'm using that as an example.
Oh,
So
okay.
people are only seeing the happiness that people have. They're not seeing the tough times.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you go on Instagram, it's you could have this happen without Instagram being there,
Mhm.
and you're only comparing your entire life to someone's happy moments. It looks really grim.
True.
And so,
True.
but people can do that too. Like there's the whole phrase "keeping up with the Joneses." Like you can see the nice house and you can see the happy, nice dressed kids, but you don't see what happens, behind closed doors.
Right. Very true.
And so you're keeping up with people you really don't even like. Anyway.
Another interesting thing, there's this study that they found. Moderate levels of positive moods can help keep the mind open, but they found that too high of levels of happiness can actually inhibit certain levels of creativity.
Wow.
So they were saying being happy might actually curb or decrease, make you less creative.
So what they're saying is a little bit of tension makes you stronger.
Or more creative. Yeah.
But I mean, like,
so
it would be a strength.
That's why often I think we see these creative, artistic folks that are plagued with, like just stress and despair and mood and
that's probably because the feelings are so heightened, and then they're expressing their feelings.
Mm-hmm. They're more able to tap into maybe sometimes their darker side a little easier.
You're very fidgety today. It's funny.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So the Enlightenment, this was interesting. I was wondering about this because happiness has not always been a common theme of pursuit.
Right.
And throughout time. And it was actually during the times of the Enlightenment that they found more of a trend or obsession towards happiness.
Yeah.
Alexander Pope.
People seeking happiness, right?
Yeah, and acknowledging it and saying it's okay to be happy.
Right.
Alexander Pope says, happiness are being's end and aim. Basically, it was something that was frowned upon in the Western culture, kind of like it is in the Japan, Middle Eastern cultures, but during the Enlightenment, that changed. So we used to all kind of be on that same track.
Right. And maybe that just comes with comfort.
Also, another big thing that advanced people being more okay with happiness. This is interesting. You ready for this?
Yes.
Advancements in dentistry.
That's because they're not afraid to smile.
Right. People were like, I don't want to show happiness, jubilation, because I'm embarrassed by my teeth.
Jubilation. That's like...
Good word, right?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're really awake.
I drink some coffee.
I drank some coffee. So did I. Mine's gone.
Mine's gone too.
That's crazy. I think... I don't remember how I was having this discussion with the other day, but I think that because of the comforts that we have, for instance, we don't have to spend a lot of time traveling. Like I can travel 20 miles in roughly 20 minutes and be somewhere that I need to be and do that thing. And I don't have to go out and forage for food. It takes me like 5 minutes to stop and get food. And there's all these things, they buy us time. And so we have an excess amount of time. Now, granted, the argument can be made we're just as busy, but we do have the at least potential for the abundance of time to think about these things. Whereas in the past, you wouldn't have been. You wouldn't have had that time to sit and really think about those things. Like, am I happy? I don't know. I need to grow this food or go shoot this or I'm going to die. Like, we have some comforts built into our, very bubble life that allow us even to wonder, do I have PTSD? Do I have this? Like, you wouldn't be able to think about those things in the past. Like it's so much about survival.
There's more convenience, and when there's more convenience, and this was a good example of like, I heard I think it was maybe on the Podfather. I'm not sure which podcast, but
the Podfather. That's a great name.
Yeah, they were talking about wealth and certain individuals and how that changes the way you think about things.
Right.
And Elon Musk was a topic of subject of topic. Yeah. And they were talking about like, well, he's super intelligent and he's able to think about all these crazy things, but also his wealth has afforded him the opportunity to be able to think about these abstract concepts like AI taking over the world.
Yeah.
And so when you have more conveniences in your life that afford you that opportunity not to be stressing like, okay, I got to work an extra shift tomorrow at the mill,
right?
So that way I can then pay off this, my car insurance.
Yeah,
that does afford you opportunities to have that more abstract thought.
We talked like a few months back about like John Carmack did the same thing. So he's the one that has has helped with making Oculus VR and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And now he's taken a step back from all of those teams to work on AI because he said, I have the brain for it and I have the means to support myself, and I can work on this at home, be around my family more, but work on this big thing that I feel like needs to go in the right direction.
Dude, I loved how John Carmack talked about how he would do, is it once a year or once a month? He would fly to like this private island and spend 1 week just
I think it was once a year.
involved in mind thought processes.
Right.
Like he would just get involved in a
Which helps
subject.
him to code, and he's arguably one of the best coders in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
with C++ mostly, but yeah.
whatever. He does a lot. Like, he even stopped and worked on rockets for a long time.
Yeah, right. But then he decided, I'm not going to be the best at this, so I'm going
Right.
to stop.
So he moved on to VR, which he
Yeah.
believes will bring travel and joys that more affluent people could have, but people
Yeah.
who were not as affluent could experience less expensive.
Right.
Like, that's his idea behind
Mhm.
VR. Speaking of VR, did you see, I think we talked about this, the HTC, who makes they make the Vive and Vive Pro and all
Right.
that. So one of the leading VR masks or helmets, whatever.
Yeah, headsets.
They have, like, along with a lot of other tech companies, have stopped. They've canceled this year's meetings that they're doing, keynotes and all that kind of stuff live, and they're hosting theirs in VR, which is cool
That seems really smart.
because a lot of people are stopping.
Wasn't there
sports and-
some big, was it Southwest by Southwest or something
yeah,
like
South
that?
by Southwest.
South by
They
Southwest,
have
they
canceled
that, right?
officially,
Which
yes.
is a tech.
It is, but a lot of the
convention.
companies were pulling out of. We're saying we're not going to be there, and
Okay.
and so they were. I think they were kind of forced to. It's sad because a lot of these places, they do really well. This is their yearly thing, their cash cow that allows them to continue to do the
To
thing that
kind
they
of
do.
advertise and get
And-
VC a little bit.
Yeah, but like South by Southwest, who like puts it on, like that's one of their big things, and they're losing it basically for this year.
Mhm.
I hope that a lot of these companies pull through and survive the next year, essentially, because they're not being able to do some of these huge things.
Mhm.
So they're getting places like HTC are getting creative and saying, we're going
Smart.
to do this in VR. You can't affect anyone
Yeah.
in VR yet.
Well,
as
I mean,
far as I know.
also, you could always just do a group call on FaceTime. But
Yeah. But with the VR, they could put people in the audience and people could be like they're there.
that
and
is
everything.
true.
So
Actually, that'd be cool if we could join that.
with the HTC one, I'm sure we could. Yeah. It would be fun to just sit in their keynote and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we should maybe do that. So I'll find out when it is.
Yeah.
It's usually like a day that's like you would have had to take off work though. So
yeah.
Another thing that's interesting going to the tech and things that have happened in coronavirus, and you were a jerk and read this article, but is the Chinese kids that are sent home because a lot of them can't go to school. I think all schools are shut down for most parts of China, and so they have this app that they work on. Well, the kids all band together and started downvoting the app in the App Store and got it like a 1-star rating, and it got it removed from the App Store, so they can't do their school now from home. Like they essentially like human DDoSed this review system to get it removed, so that they didn't have to do school from home.
Clever.
Part of me is like, oh my gosh, and then part of me is like, so smart.
Mhm.
Like they were like, well, we have like 1 billion people. Why don't we download this app so we
Hey,
can
power
get more
to 'em,
time
man.
off?
Power to him.
It's creative for sure. What baffled me is like, how many 1-star apps have you seen on the App Store? Quite a few, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
But it might not be. It probably wasn't iTunes.
No.
was
I'm sure
their
it wasn't,
own-
but I've never seen them removed for that. So they must have a different App Store
Right. Standard.
for China. I'm sure they
Yeah,
do.
right.
Like that they have a different one.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's
they
just
do too.
super funny that happened. But
Yeah, that's
anyway.
that's commendable, I guess I would say, even though it's not going to help them in the long run. But
no, it's super funny though. Oh, yeah.
dude, so tell me a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit about what's going on with this. I heard there was a little greenhouse thing going on in China. That they
Yeah, this
discovered.
is another interesting thing. It's super funny. Is that I'm not looking at the percentage right now. Their greenhouse gas emissions are down 25% as a result of coronavirus. That's how many things they've shut down. That's a pretty significant number.
It must be factories that are shut down.
Well, a lot of factories. So like even Apple didn't hit their quarterly goals because they're not getting things in and nothing's getting done.
Right.
Like a lot of people aren't sick. This is another thing I not from this article, but a lot of people aren't sick. They're from neighboring towns to where the factories are, and they can't leave the town.
Oh, interesting.
They're locked down to that town, so they can't go to work. It's not because they're sick; it's because they can't get there. And if
they can't get there.
And
That's
if they got there, they couldn't get back. So a lot of them are running at 15 to 20% of their.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, guys. We're gonna hit the shower thoughts pretty soon here, but some of the as far as like the decline, like economic impacts. I've talked to a couple of friends that are like freaked out because a lot of their retirement are in stocks, right? And over the past several weeks, the U.S. economy, Dow has plunged basically like 2,000 points.
Right.
And it's basically to the point of where it's close to pre-2000 or post-2008, like market decline from the housing market slump. And so it's like this massive gutting decline in the market. But I want to kind of lend a kind of moment of encouragement to people as far as the economy goes. So a very wise man.
Buy high, sell low.
Yes, buy high, sell low. He said when when people are greedy, be conservative.
Oh.
And when people are conservative, be greedy. So when the market right now is plunging, maybe think about investing a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though potentially you'll go down, you'll lose some money at first, but in the long run,
yeah, play the long
you'll
game.
end up on the top because the market will rebound. It's been around for I think over 100 years or close to 100 years now. And there's a very common theme that you'll see. When the markets plunge, they'll rebound. But if you get greedy when people are conservative, that's when usually people get set ahead. Yeah. So that's just a little thought I wanted to share with you guys.
I think greedy's I think it's just greedy for the second one makes it sound like you're doing something bad.
Well, I mean, like, it's
I think you could say, like, be ambitious.
Yeah, okay. You can say that.
Because greedy sounds bad. Like you're doing something.
Well,
like you're
greedy
taking.
has a negative connotation to it. But it's just a way.
I think greed is the negative connotation.
It's what's it word? Tantalizing word or something like that. I guess I'd say. Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to hit real quick?
So I have a TIL that I found fascinating. I shared this with my son this week, and this is crazy. So today I learned, meaning this week I learned, that Michael Jackson didn't play any musical instruments, at least according to this, and composed music still by just singing the different parts. And he would record those, multiple different parts in the tracks, and then musicians would come back and be able to compose the music, like the chords and all that. Like he would sing the different parts.
That's wild.
Of the music.
Weird.
And then compose music just from his own voice.
Mike, man. Okay.
Interesting
thing. Very crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit of rabbit trail. We'll just go real quick.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, interesting situation. There was a lot of belief that he was chemically castrated.
Whoa.
So when he was a child, his father, there's
conspiracy.
What's it? Dr. Carson was the one that I believe was it Carson?
I don't know.
I know Ben Carson is the housing development guy on the Trump administration. But anyways, Michael Jackson's doctor that accidentally overdosed Michael Jackson on propofol said that Michael Jackson had told him his father had him chemically castrated so that way he could keep his falsetto and keep his high range when he was singing. Yeah. So as you know, like Michael Jackson's voice always was super, super high.
Yeah.
Even
but there's
through
other
puberty.
guys that are like that too.
Well, but through puberty, like it didn't change.
Weird.
And so I was thinking about this a little bit. I was like, oh, so Michael Jackson was chemically castrated. And then I was thinking about this. Okay, well, all these like individuals that are like, perpetrators of like crazy assaults and sexual assaults and different things, and they have like physically, like there's a mental addiction to it, but also there's a physiological issue that's going on there as well. I was like, well, it's interesting. Instead of killing these individuals, I think there should be two paths. One, chemical castration to an individual,
or just full,
or physical castration.
Yeah.
And then, or offer them for individuals that know they have this tendency and they're scared of acting upon it.
Yeah.
They should give them, say, hey,
Have a path.
Hey, we want to prevent you from having this issue. We'll chemically castrate you for free. And then be there to help them with supplementing testosterone.
I don't see anything unreasonable about that.
Right. I mean, if it saves
at least on the surface,
crime,
if someone's screaming out a reason.
Yeah. That's like a crazy rabbit trail I wanted to throw out there. But I was like, dude, Michael Jackson was chemically castrated. But then I thought about this. Michael Jackson got in trouble after he was chemically castrated for having all super unhealthy relationships with young kids.
Yeah.
But I don't know. None of us truly know what relationship and interactions he had, if they were negative with these kids. Some people said it was terrible. Some people said it wasn't terrible. Macaulay Culkin had a super tight relationship with Michael Jackson, stayed over his Wonderland and all this stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And said he never had any negative experiences with Michael Jackson.
That's probably true.
But Michael Jackson was kind of stunted as a child. He had this inner child.
I think he was stunted
life.
Socially. He couldn't ever go out.
I
watched a video of him once going through a grocery store for his birthday. They shut down a grocery store so he could go grocery shop like a normal person. Mm-hmm. And they staged people in there that he knew in the store, so it didn't look like it was an empty store. And he had not ever experienced going shopping in a grocery store.
So
and he was an adult.
That's
so imagine sad. It's the same, except on a bigger scale, a kid that never learned to crawl and just walked or whatever. There's something missing in that equation that didn't happen. And
yeah, super crazy.
Regardless of everything else, it still would feel bad for his situation too, because we don't know what that is like.
Okay.
So one thing that Haley did mention in the comments here is that for Contagion, they did work with the CDC really closely to make sure that they got everything as accurate as possible for the movie depiction.
That's good.
And that the CDC said that this is a very, very plausible thing that could happen.
Didn't the movie come out
it was 2014 or
it was
something.
old. Okay.
Yeah. Because they have flip phones and stuff in it. And maybe it was earlier than that even. But one thing that the point of the movie was to bring some ease to people that this actually is going on behind the scenes, that people are always looking at this stuff and trying to help thing. And one thing that was mentioned in the movie I thought was interesting is people were like, you're getting really, really amped up about this virus that's going on in the movie. And they said, aren't you afraid that you're going to have another H1N1 situation where you overreact to something that isn't really as bad as it is? And the guy said, I would rather people be upset with us for overreacting than not reacting at all.
100%.
And I was like, oh, that's a super good point. It's people could
that's
say...
That's exactly what I feel.
People could say all they want, this seems over the top, these seems over the top. Well, we don't know everything.
Exactly.
And even the CDC doesn't know everything, and that's what's scaring them. And they'd rather...
And right now, what I'm experiencing is a little bit of an underreaction, and that frustrates me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. I'm frustrated about that. I wish I could test people, but they won't give me test kits because the government... I'm just going to a little soapbox real quick.
Yeah, do it. I think it needs to be said.
The FDA and CDC is having such tight protocols for what tests can be run to test individuals for the coronavirus that it's limiting healthcare providers from being able to order tests on individuals.
Was it you that was saying that UW is making test kits now?
No, not UW. I think it was Berkeley. Or there's
someone in Seattle is doing it.
There could be someone in Seattle. Quest Diagnostics was just approved to start testing people this week.
Okay.
Have their own individual test. Now, Quest Diagnostics will not perform the tests, but they will
send it off.
They will analyze the tests.
Okay.
So
that's good.
Yeah. So Quest Diagnostics is one, and then there's a couple.
But I heard that there was I think it was UW.
Could be.
I remember it was,
could be.
I don't remember who was telling me that.
But
they're making $1,500 a day.
There has to be some
because Seattle
loosening.
is having
there has to be loosening on protocols of who they'll allow to test for it. So that's frustrating to me because if you limit the amount of people that can be tested, then you prevent the potential spreading.
This is there was something, and I don't have the article linked, or it was just basically just someone's message was just this is a really good argument for universal healthcare, is because the companies the countries that have had that have dealt with this so much differently than we did.
Yeah, and that's a mixed bag, but yeah, I think
no, I'm not saying it's a full on,
No,
but
no, no.
It's definitely...
It would be good, but still you would have the issues. The government's only allowing certain people to perform the test, and that's frustrating. And so, like, a good example, our health department, every state right now
right.
is only being given a certain amount of limited tests.
Right.
And there's only 8. So
There's
our
other
health
countries
department
that have them, and
only has 80 kits per day currently
Yeah.
in Oregon. So we can test 80 people in Oregon a day,
that's just ridiculous.
which is crazy when you're dealing with millions of people.
yeah.
So hopefully that gets changed quickly.
Yeah.
But it's going to be okay. We'll just keep talking. We'll
some
bring,
of,
we'll
some
bring
of
more
our
information to you
regulations
guys.
annoy me.
Yeah,
like
me too.
that our country does that. It's like,
too.
you know what? So we have some failed tests, or you think we're going to have some failed tests. Who cares? At least we can do it quicker. Like, I don't know.
Well, my first shower thought I'm going to throw at you guys.
Yeah, do it.
Talking about, sanitizer, hand sanitizer. Placing hand sanitizer in elevators would probably increase the usage of that sanitizer simply by people having nothing else to do.
It's true.
Like if you
Super
just
true.
put a hand sanitizer in every elevator, boom, there you go.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Everybody gets some. I like that kind of thought.
Yeah. If one day we cure aging and all diseases, we will all die horrible deaths.
Yeah. Kind of like animals. Very few animals die of old age.
Right.
Most of them die of
Being eaten,
being eaten.
smashed, falling off
Yeah,
cliffs.
hit by cars.
Yeah. Mostly
Um,
becoming food.
It's interesting. I was thinking the brain basically is slowly 3D printing your hair. It's kind of cool.
The brain directly.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. No, not really.
We need a mandatory news show that debunks all the lies of the day more than we need actual news.
So good. Dude.
That's us.
Oh, my God. That's a genius idea.
I know.
That's genius. I thought it's kind of I think a really big coincidence is that the moon and the sun look exactly the same size in the sky almost.
It is. I think there's
Isn't that
got to be a
wild?
reason behind it.
Isn't that
I
wild?
don't know. Yeah, it is.
Such
I mean,
different in size, but somehow because of their distance,
They're
they look-
exactly,
yeah.
just because of the distance, they're the same size.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, like the solar eclipse, which is
Mhm.
amazing. I would love to see another one. Having the same hair length, a man is said to have long hair, while a woman is said to have short hair.
Yeah, totally. Going back to the solar system, since the Earth is never in the same location twice, a time traveling machine would also have to be a teleportation device.
That is so,
a teleportation device.
so true.
Isn't that? So it'd have to be a time and space traveling device.
Yeah.
You'd have to think about where was the Earth.
I've never
at that
thought
time
about
too,
that. That would suck. You're like, I did it! Poof, you're
in
dead.
space.
Like,
Yeah,
you're-
isn't that interesting? So you'd have to be able to calculate where to move as well.
oh, that is so weird.
Yeah, kind of wild thought.
Now my brain hurts.
I only have one more shower thought.
I have no more.
Okay, so this is kind of an interesting thing. Like even when you're on a plane or a train, it seems way more awkward to sit on one of those, a bus or whatever, next to someone you vaguely know than a complete stranger.
It's so true.
Because if you vaguely know them, you kind of have to acknowledge them. You have to this weird carry-on conversation. If you don't know them, then you don't
Do
even
you
acknowledge
remember the first train we rode in Italy and the lady that had annoyed you
them.
for like the entire airplane ride?
Yeah,
and,
she was vaguely next to us.
and she was just like, walked through the entire train and sat next to us.
Which is weird.
It's like, what are you doing?
I don't like you.
Yeah.
Go away.
You talked a lot to that last person, and we really don't want you to talk to us.
Yeah, she talked too much. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Well, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening, tuning in to episode 52. We're excited to talk to you again soon. Hopefully you all have a good week. Wash your hands. Take your vitamin C, vitamin D. And we appreciate you all. Hopefully we'll stay healthy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think we're going to make it.
I think we'll be okay.
we survived Italy. So
Oh, that's right.
so far.
Awesome, guys.